Hello, grade 12, and welcome to a new reading comprehension lesson. The new theme is human rights, and the lesson is about the Rohingya refugees. From crowded camps to a remote island, Rohingya refugees move again. Okay, first of all, we need to recall together what the basic human rights are. This is the major theme of our unit. It's about human rights. What are the 10 basic human rights? We've discussed this before. Of course, we can think of the right to education, the right to health care, to safety, freedom of expression, freedom of building your own family, freedom of and the right to have your own property, to own your own house, etc. When and where were they agreed upon? Of course, as we know, this was a document that was signed in Paris in 1948 in the UN headquarters, and then 192 nations, including Lebanon, signed this agreement. The agreement that all those nations supposedly should uphold the basic human rights. How do you view the implementation of human rights in your country? Which ones are upheld? Which ones aren't? Of course, we're going to discuss this during the Zoom sessions. Several are upheld in our country. There is a certain margin for freedom of expression. We're allowed to express ourselves. However, there are some basic rights that are still being somewhat violated in the country. We can think of, do we have complete healthcare? Do we have safety? Are we safe? Do we have this freedom of going from place to place? Are we not being violated on certain bases in the country? Okay, this is something for discussion during the Zoom live. Name one country where we see a profound violation of human rights today due to war or religious division. There are several. We can mainly think of Yemen, most profoundly Yemen, and then there's Myanmar, where there is an ethnic cleansing going on, where the Rohingya are being persecuted and driven out of their land. And this is the topic of discussion for this article. Okay, the basic human rights, of course, you can read them in the PowerPoint and study them. I have the answers for you here. When and where was it agreed upon? And the other two questions. Now, the lesson: from crowded camps to a remote island, Rohingya refugees move again. Read the following article about the struggle of Rohingya Muslims who are being relocated, meaning moved by the Bangladeshi government, then answer the questions that follow. Now, those Rohingya Muslims are natives of the country of Myanmar, which borders Bangladesh. After being persecuted and killed and even tortured, they had to flee, of course, and become refugees in different countries, but mostly in Bangladesh, which is already a poor country. Paragraph 1, the clump of silt in the Bay of Bengal could be inundated by a single strike from a cyclone. Of course, we know that countries in Southeast Asia, like Bangladesh, Indonesia, and others, all suffer from cyclones, which are natural disasters, tropical storms. Before this year, no one lived there in this island. But on Friday afternoon, 7 Bangladeshi naval boats carrying more than 1,640 Rohingya Muslims landed on the low-slung island of Bhasan Char as part of the Bangladeshi government's plan to ease crowding in refugee camps where more than 1 million Rohingya have lived since fleeing systemic persecution and violence in Myanmar. Paragraph 2, rights groups have decried the resettlement, meaning they are opposed to it, saying that the Rohingya yet again were being forced to move against their will. Okay, in Bangladesh, they were put in certain refugee camps, and after that, the Bangladeshi government felt that those camps were overcrowded and decided to move them to this remote and unsafe island of Bhasan Char. The relocation of so many Rohingya refugees to a remote island, which is still off limits to everyone, including rights groups and journalists, without prior permission, poses grave concerns about independent human rights monitoring. So this island is remote, meaning it's far, and you cannot have access to it if you are a human rights activist or a journalist, unless you have prior permission from the Bangladeshi government. So the main concern is, how are these refugees going to be monitored? Are they being treated well? Are their basic human rights being upheld? Amnesty International, of course, a major human rights group, Amnesty said it had spoken with several Rohingya who felt compelled to sign up. They had to sign up for the relocation rather than truly wanting to go. The Bangladeshi government has said that it plans to move 100,000 Rohingya to Basan Char, which means floating island in Bengali. The estuary landmass appears to have taken shape from silt in the 1980s and 1990s. Dredging carried out by a Chinese company, among others, was intended to make it fit for habitation and to stop high tide from flooding it. So it's not even a natural island. Okay, in the Rohingya refugee camps, which are spread out near Bangladesh's border with Myanmar, some residents said that people destined for the isolated island, it's far away, it's separated, had displayed mixed emotions. Some are going happily and some are seen crying, said Abdul Rahim, a camp leader. Another camp leader, Entatullah, said that one family from his camp block was among those heading to Basan Char on Friday. Can I tell you, no one was forced to leave, Mr. Entatullah said. They are going voluntarily. Others said they were given no choice but to move. Bangladesh has shown remarkable generosity in accepting so many refugees from Myanmar, where the Rohingya minority faced a military campaign of executions, meaning they're being killed, and village burnings so brutally planned, violently planned and executed that the United Nations officials have said that it was carried out with genocidal intent. And the word genocide means ethnic cleansing. A person or a group of people is killed due to its ethnic identity, whether, for example, they could be or Muslim or black or white or whatever. Their ethnic identity is the reason they are being killed. That's called a genocide. As the flow of Rohingya intensified in 2017, the coast near the Bangladeshi city of Cox's Bazar was taken over by refugee settlements. Vast encampments of tents replaced orchards and forests. The overcrowding caused fatal landslides and flooding, as well as occasional rampaging by elephants unaware that their paths to the river now went through a tarpaulin city. Gun battles have broken out in the camps as different factions fought over limited resources. So this is the situation with the camps. Therefore, maybe the government feels, the Bangladeshi government means that it needs to relocate some of those people. With few economic opportunities available, some Rohingya have paid smugglers to send their daughters to become child brides in Malaysia, risking perilous or dangerous sea voyage. Over the years, hundreds of Rohingya have died at sea. In May, hundreds of passengers on one such boat, which had gotten stuck at sea because it was unable to land in Malaysia, returned to Bangladesh. The dead had been thrown overboard. Survivors were taken to Basan Char and have been forced to live there since. Some of the refugees heading to Basan Char on Friday, a boat journey of more than 2 hours, said they had been lured by promises of big houses and fancy facilities. Okay, and now what the government of Bangladesh is saying. On Friday, the Bangladeshi Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that the government had spent $350 million refurbishing Basan Char with all modern amenities, year-round fresh water, beautiful lake, and proper infrastructure. The building's concrete foundations were better able to withstand natural disasters than the makeshift structures near Cox's Bazar, the minister said. But refugees already on the island have described living in shared barracks with barely enough space to stretch out. Medical facilities are scant meaning inadequate, in small amounts. Outside, storm surges threatened in a country that is regularly battered by cyclones, and as I said, cyclones are natural disasters, tropical storms, severe tropical storms. Daniel Sullivan, a senior advocate, a defender, a spokesperson for a certain group, for Refugees International, called the Rohingya relocation plan short-sighted and inhumane. It doesn't respect their humanity. It doesn't meet their basic rights as humans. Last month, representatives from international human rights groups, including Refugee International, made public a letter they had sent to the Bangladeshi Foreign Secretary pleading for unfettered humanitarian access to Basan Char, as well as the opportunity for a full United Nations assessment of the area. The requests were not granted. So those human rights organizations with the UN wanted to go see what's happening. Of course, they were not allowed to go. Exercises in one sentence state the issue that the article is discussing. Of course, the article is discussing the relocation of a huge number of Rohingya Muslims who had to escape persecution from their mother country, Myanmar. They are being relocated from refugee camps to a remote island in Bangladesh called Basan Char. Now, according to paragraph 2, why are human rights organizations concerned about the resettlement? Because those human rights watch groups, the journalists, everyone does not have access to this island, and therefore any violation of human rights will go unrecorded and unmonitored. 3, by referring to paragraph 6, list 3 dangerous consequences of overcrowded settlements. We already read in the article they were being overrun by elephants, the conditions are dire, gunfights are breaking up, landslides, etc. Why do you think Daniel Sullivan described the relocation plan as inhumane and short-sighted? Pick one piece of evidence from the text to support your answer. Well, we know that it's inhumane because none of the monitor groups, the UN, the human rights groups, or journalists have access to this remote island. So we don't know what's really happening to those people there. So what is happening to them, they are being relocated mostly against their will. So these are the answers. Of course, when you study for the quiz, you can take a look at the PowerPoint and read them at your own time. Now, this chart we have to fill. Number of Rohingya being relocated by Bangladeshi government, it's 100,000. Another question which I meant to ask here is the number of refugees. This is 1 million, by the way. 1 million. 1 million is the number of what? The number of Rohingya refugees who who escaped as refugees to Bangladesh. The amount of money the Bangladeshi government claims to have spent on renovating Basan Char, they claimed to have spent $325 million. This is what they claimed. And this is the information in the chart here. It just needs one more zero, so I wrote 1 million. So this is the modified one. This is the modified one. This is the correct one. As I guess this is it for this lecture. For further questions, please write them down and you can ask me during the Zoom live session. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.